We are in the last week of Better Together. We've been talking about community, about relationships, about friendships. And throughout the series, we've talked a lot about surrounding yourself with the right kind of people. And tonight, I want to talk to you about being the right kind of people, about being the wise friend for someone else, being the person that when they walk with you, they get better. And more importantly, they get closer to Jesus. And sometimes we get so stuck in like, what am I looking for in a friend? You know, that's how we kind of grow up. It's like, well, do they have the same interests as me? Do I get along with them? Do we vibe together? What I want you to focus on, and what Jesus always told us, is focus on yourself first. Not from a selfishness standpoint, but from a heart change standpoint. You got to focus on, what do I need to change? What do I need to improve? And not just look at, well, they need to do this and they need to do that. And so we're going to look within ourselves and see some ways that we can become more Christ-centered community for other people tonight. And here's why this is important, because people need you. There are people in your schools, there are people in your families that need your example and your influence to help them meet Jesus. So when we talk about one more, it's not just about making an invitation, it's also about being a godly friend to those people. So we're gonna go to Proverbs 18:24. Proverbs is an old book, thousands of years old, that talks about wise sayings and has a bunch of wise sayings. And we're gonna look at one of them. And here's what it says. It says, a man of many companions may come to ruin. Now you may hear this and be like, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would a bunch of companions mess you up? Here's why. Because the word used for companions is kind of like buddies. Now I know y'all don't use the term buddy. It's kind of like an old guy thing. For some reason, guys who fish and hunt a lot say buddies. I don't have buddies because I don't fish and hunt. But people that fish and hunt have a lot of buddies. And so my brother-in-law, everybody's a buddy because he's like a commercial fisherman and loves to hunt and all that. And so I know we don't use that term. However, you guys know what it means. It's kind of just like one of those people, like, you know their name, right? Like it's like a classmate or an acquaintance. You know who they are. They know maybe your name. You might know one or two things about them. You could probably hang out with them like for a couple of minutes, but you wouldn't really hang out for like hours. You wouldn't go to a meal together. You wouldn't invite them over to your house. They're just buddies. They're just acquaintances. They're just people you kind of know, but it kind of stays real surface level, okay? So what the writer is saying is when all you have is a bunch of buddies, just a bunch of guys that you don't really know, a bunch of girls you don't really know, that actually is a bad thing. Here's what we need. A friend who's deeper than that. The second part says, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. The Hebrew word here used for friend is different than companion. It's talking about someone that is almost like a family level. It's like one of those people, like, you know everything about them, they know everything about you, and you are willing to sacrifice for one another. There is love there, there's affection there. You really care about that person. And so what Proverbs is saying is we don't need a bunch of buddies, we need friends. And here's the thing about having buddies. It's really easy to have a buddy, and it's really easy to be a buddy. All you got to do is just know someone's name and be like, hey, what's up, and give them a fist bump. But friendship is way deeper, and it's way more impactful. And so the question we want to ask as we look at God's word tonight is this: are you a godly friend, or are you just a buddy? You just somebody that's just around, or are you someone's godly friend? In John 15, Jesus is with his best friends. It's the last night of his life. They're at dinner. We call it the Last Supper. And it's the night before he's going to go to the cross. And so he's having this meal with them, and he's giving them all these final teachings and instructions before he leaves. And in this section, he's talking about abiding or remaining in him and how important that is in John chapter 15. But within that, he says something about friends, and the point isn't necessarily about friends, but he does say something that is very true about friends, and it kind of reflects on that Proverbs verse we just looked at. So I want to read it to you. John chapter 15, this is Jesus talking to his best friends around the dinner table the night before he dies. He says this: this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. So when we look at relationships with people, we should love others, not as we should love ourselves, not as we would want to be loved, treat someone as you want to be treated, but it's way more than that. He says, I want you to love other people the way that is Jesus, loves you. So I want you to think about the way that Jesus loves us, what he sacrificed for us, how much he gave for all of humanity. And he says, that's how you should love other people. Jesus' example is the definition of love. This is how we abide in Jesus. This is how we remain in Jesus, is we're obedient. And obedience to God is love. He says the whole Bible can be summed up in one command, or one two-part command. Love God and love people. And so he says to love others as he has loved us. And then he continues in verse 13. He says, greater love has no one than this. So there is no greater love than what I'm about to say, Jesus says. That someone lay down his or her life for their friends. For their friends. And the disciples didn't know it yet. But Jesus would do this exact thing the very next day. He would be murdered, tortured on a cross. Not because he was weak and because some soldiers just were too strong for him, but because he laid down his life, because he gave his life, not just for the friends in that circle, but for you and for me and for every human who would ever exist. He would live this out. He would lay down his life for his friends. And a lot of times, and this is not your fault, it's just the way we kind of grow up. We grow up thinking about friends in this way. I will be friends with people who I get along with, which kind of makes sense. I'm not telling you to be friends with people you hate. I'm not telling you to hang out with a bunch of people that you have nothing in common with. We just often look at friendship as, am I getting what I want? So if I have the same interests, like if I got a friend that loves basketball, or I got a friend that loves some reality TV show, and we both agree on that, it's easy for us to be friends because we have something to talk about. Or if you have the same sense of humor, the same jokes or whatever, maybe you live close to one another, you have your parents are friends. If it's convenient, if you get along, if you've kind of got the same personality, you can be friends. And that's kind of how we look at friendship. Like, am I gonna get out of this relationship what I want? Do I enjoy being around this person? But Jesus takes this idea and flips it upside down, and he says, friendship is not so much about what you get, but what you give. Friendship is about sacrificial love that puts others first. And so the bottom line that we're going to look at tonight is a godly friend loves and sacrifices like Jesus. If you want to be a friend that is closer than a brother, you love and you sacrifice like Jesus. If you don't want to just be a buddy, you love and you sacrifice like Jesus. If you want to help your one more come to know Jesus, you love and sacrifice like Jesus. Now, it'd be easy for me to be like, let's all go do that. Let me pray and we'll just get out of here early. But here's the problem. We often can know something is true and not know how to do it. And so I want to talk about how we can do it. What exactly does a godly friend look like? What does it look like to love? What does it look like to sacrifice within a friendship? And so I want to give you some handles, something to hold on to, something to think about when we're talking about the idea of loving our friends and sacrificing for our friends. And handles are important. I know that y'all are young, so maybe, have any of y'all ever moved? Like moved houses or something? It's like the worst. I hate moving furniture. I hate moving couches. It's especially bad. Like one time I had to move my sister into a 3rd-story apartment, and it was the worst. You have to figure out how to fit it's like the couch won't fit through the door, and there's no way to get it in there, and there's one specific way that the manufacturer made it so that you can get it through. And so it's hard to move things, and it's awkward, and you're picking up these awkward pieces of furniture, and it's the worst. And then you hit your shin and you stub your toe, and I hate when my friends ask me to help them move. I need to be more like Jesus and help them, but I just hate it. Within me, it's just oh, why did they ask me to do that? So it's hard to move stuff, especially when it doesn't have a handle on it. If you move this table, no problem. I can hold on to this, you can hold on to that, we'll move it out of here. But then when you have to move, here's the hardest thing to move. Have you ever tried to move a mattress? Man, this is the worst thing. It's I'm not talking about your little twin mattress that you little 6th graders sleep on. I'm talking about a king mattress. One of those big Alaskan kings like Tyler probably has. Huge bed, all right? And so, and there's no way to hold it. And when you try to lift it, then it folds like a taco in the middle. And then when you try to move it the other way, then it falls over. And it's there's no way to move this thing. And by the way, you know why they're so heavy? Because they're full of all your sweat and skin cells from the past 5 years of sleeping in them. And y'all think, oh, this is awesome, my soft bed. It's soft for a reason, and it's heavy for a reason, because it's got half of you inside of it. It's gross. So we move it, and we can't hold on to it. And so what I learned a few years ago is there's this is like a ninja way of carrying a a mattress, you have to push your hands really hard on each side, like you're doing like an isometric exercise. And then you kind of do this little sumo wrestler waddle, and you just kind of go like this, and you just keep going until you get down the long hallway. And that's how you got to hold them. But I recently was moving a friend, and I guess this was a rich friend, so they had fancy mattresses. And they're starting to make mattresses with handles on them. It's incredible. And it's like they finally realized people hate moving our mattresses, so we need to put handles on them. And now you just pick them up, and it's super easy. And so not mattresses, handles help us hold on to things, and they help us be able to grasp things. And so that's what I want to do. I want to give you something to grasp onto. I don't want to just be like, here's this godly truth, you should do it. I want to help you understand how to do it. So I'm going to give you a list. We don't do a lot of lists around here, but I'm going to give you a list of ways that godly friends live out love. And so if you're taking notes, this is a great night for you. 6 ways that godly friends live out love. And as we go through these, listen, I'm gonna go through them quick. As we go through them, I don't want you to listen to them and be like, there's this laundry list of things I have to do. I want you to do this. I just want you to pay attention to 1, maybe 2 things that you struggle with and focus on praying about that and working with the Lord towards being better in that area. So when I go through these, as I'm going through them, and you write them down out to the side, here's what I would encourage you to do. Rate yourself real quick on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being I'm great at that, 1 I'm terrible. And if you get a 7 or 8, don't worry about that. Like, that's not for you. But if you put down like a 2, 3, 4, maybe you should focus on that. We're trying to just get 1 or 2 handles for being a more godly, loving, and sacrificial friend. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Okay, thank you. All right, that's the right answer. First thing is this. Godly friends live out love by encouraging consistently. Encourage consistently. 1 Thessalonians 5:11, Paul says this to Jesus' followers. Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up. Everybody say, build up. Build up. Build one another up just as you are doing. Now, I'm better at this now, but this used to be like my biggest weakness as a friend. I was so bad at this. It's so easy to tear people down. It's so easy to make jokes. It's so easy, man, I can watch somebody like walk through a room or like pay attention to their mannerisms or the way they talk, and I could think of like 5 things that I could make fun of them for. And it just comes to my mind. I'm a sinner, I'm a bad person, but it comes to my mind. It's so easy for me to make fun of somebody and to poke fun of someone and to call them out about something so that I can get a laugh. And I have made many, it's maybe not really recently since I'm actually an adult, but definitely in high school, I've made a lot of friends cry. Now, I'm not talking about like my male friends. They don't typically cry, but I've made a lot of female friends cry because I would say something. I'd be like, but it was a joke. And then they're like, they're just like I could think of the times where I have 3 sisters, made them cry all the time by the stuff that I said. It's really easy for all of us to tear down people, to make jokes, but it takes a lot of work. And it takes a lot of intentionality to think about how we can build each other up. How we can build each other up. And when we think about building up, this is like a building term. It's talking about like fortifying and making things stronger. When we encourage people, we're actually literally giving them courage to live out life. And you guys know, when someone says something nice to you, encouraging, that's like from the heart, how much that lifts you up and makes you think, I can do things that I thought I couldn't do. And here's another just little piece of advice. If you've ever felt lonely and you want to make friends, the number 1 thing you can do is encourage. Everybody wants to hang out with encouragers. Everybody wants to hang out with people that make them feel better about themselves and say things that make them feel like they can take on life. So encourage consistently. And I know, because I've been around some middle schoolers. Middle schoolers are great at tearing each other down. I'd encourage you to build one another up. Encourage consistently. Second thing is this. Love others enough to say the hard things. We talked about this last week. Ephesians 4:15 and 16 says this. Rather, speaking the truth in love, meaning we say hard things, but we say them in a loving way, we are to grow up in every way into him who is the head, into Christ. Meaning, when we speak the truth in love, we help other people become more like Jesus. Because we show them, again, those blind spots where maybe they are falling short and we help them see it. But here's the thing. It's really hard to do that. It's hard to do that. So we have to ask the question, do you care more about your friend or what they think about you? Because it's awkward to bring up something that they're doing wrong. And you don't want them to get mad at you, and you feel all weird about it. So let me give you an example of what's going on when you know something that would help your friend, but you don't say it. Let me give you an example. I want you to imagine. I don't know why this would be happening. You're a middle schooler. You should be at home in bed. But in the middle of the night, you're walking down the sidewalk on Beach Boulevard, okay? Let's just imagine, with your friends. Not a good idea. Not a situation I want to see you guys in. But let's say you're just walking down the street, and it's pretty empty roads. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Nobody's driving. It's real quiet, all right? And one of your friends is just acting stupid, and they run out into the road, but no one's coming. And you're like, what are you doing? Come on, get back on the sidewalk. What are you doing? But it's not really an urgent situation. You might kind of roll your eyes and be like, come on. And like, whatever, they'll figure it out. But then you notice coming down the street is a garbage truck. You know, it's the middle of the night. They're about to go start waking people up and moving garbage, all right? So you see them, but they're far, they're way like a mile away, and there's a few stoplights. But they're getting closer, and then they're at the next stoplight, and then they're at the next stoplight. And you might be like, hey, bro, you need to get out of the road. You need to get out of the road. You need to get out of the road. And then eventually you may start to yell because they're getting closer and closer, and they're not moving. And if they keep coming down that way and they don't get out of the way, they're going to die, all right? So you tell them, come on. And eventually you might even say some words that you wouldn't say in front of your parents to get them out of the road. And then at the very end, here's what you're probably gonna do. When it's getting close enough that you're like really worried, if you're a good friend, you would pull them out of the road, or you would push them out of the road. Because if not, you know they're done for. So this is what we do when we hold people accountable. And you're like, well, it's not that serious. Well, it kind of is. It kind of is. Because if you don't say something, what you're doing is saying, you just go to destruction. I'm not really worried about. But if you're a good friend, wouldn't you want your friend to be safe? Wouldn't you want your friend to go in the right direction? And so we got to love each other enough to say the hard things. Third thing is this: show up in the highs and the lows. Show up in the highs and the lows. Romans 12:15 says this: rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. So you should be the friend who is there for your friends in all circumstances. Here's the thing. It's really easy to be in your friend's life at their birthday party. Everybody wants to be at a party. Everybody wants to be invited to a party. All good. It's really easy to be a friend in the big events. It's really easy to be a friend when your friend is successful and they're experiencing some amazing thing and you're like, oh yeah, I want to get invited. It's easy to accept an invitation to someone's vacation with their family. All these things are easy. You know what's harder? Being with your friends in the low times, in the hard times. I had this friend in high school, and his name was Ryan Kinder, but we all called him Kinder because I'm Ryan. He can't be Ryan too. So we all called him Kinder. And he was like this. He was a Christian and is a Christian. He's a Jesus follower, but he was wild. Like he was super into like heavy metal and kind of looked like Beavis and Butthead, like kind of like that look. And yeah, I know y'all don't know what that is. It's some old cartoon about bad kids. Anyway, so this is his thing. He was just wild and goofy and would say the most ridiculous things. And so a lot of people didn't take him seriously, but he's a great friend. He ended up being a Marine, FBI agent, all that. He's awesome. So, and he's been with me in all the highs. He was in my wedding. I was in his wedding. We had kids around the same time, and they met each other, and that was special. We graduated together, walked in our high school graduation, graduated together in college, and walked in our college graduation. We've been together in all the high of highs, like all good. But the thing I remember most about Kinder is that when I was in college, I had like, you know, the worst breakup that I had ever had. And I was like 19 years old, and I was like so upset about this situation with this girl. And it happened like on a Friday afternoon. And he knew that I needed some company and I needed someone with me. And again, a lot of people would be like, oh, Kinder, he's so goofy. This guy is a loyal friend who is there in all situations. And I'll never forget it. And y'all might think, this is so lame. Just when you get to that place where you're low, you're gonna want this kind of friend. I remember that I think I was a sophomore in college, and it was late on a Friday night, and we were talking about it and everything, and he came to the realization that I didn't need to be alone that night. Like not that I was like, you know, gonna hurt myself or something, but just like I needed some company. And I'll never forget it. I still remember him. It's like 1 a.m. And instead of going, he lived in the same neighborhood as me. Instead of going back to his apartment, he just grabs a blanket and grabs a pillow and sleeps on my floor. And I didn't ask him to do it. And it may seem like, oh, that's nothing. It was something. I still remember it 20 years later. I still remember how it made me feel that a friend would be there with me in the lows. And I remember way more than him standing next to me at my wedding. Way more than meeting each other's kids is that moment where he was with me in the lowest of lows. So show up for your friend in the highs and lows. Here's the next thing. Celebrate others and don't compete. James says this. I'm going to skip to verse 14. It says, if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. Here's what he's talking about. He's saying when you're interacting with people, do not live with bitter jealousy and selfish ambition. What does that mean? It means that you don't want what other people have, and you're not looking to get what other people have. Essentially, you're not competing. And this is what I know about especially teenage friendships. It's so easy when people do something good to not really be that happy for them. And I know you wouldn't tell anybody, and you probably wouldn't say it, but deep within you, you think things like this. Well, I'm smarter than her. I deserve that. Well, I'm better than him. I deserve that. Well, why did that person get that and I didn't? And we start to compare, and we start to feel bad about ourselves, and so we want to put other people down. And we might even go to our friends and be like, well, you know, I know everybody loves him, but did you know this and did you know that? And it's just this bitterness in our heart and this jealousy in our heart and this wanting to be all about ourselves and get what we want at all times. And it's so common. You see someone else's, Instagram or whatever post, and you're just like, well, why do they get to go on that vacation and I don't? Why is their life like this and mine isn't? And it's so easy to compete with our friends and to want to put them down so that we can get more, because we think, well, if they're doing well, then I can't do well. And if they're doing well, that makes me feel bad about myself. And a good friend does not do that. A good friend does not compete. They celebrate their friends. When their friend does well, they're excited for them. And it's not just like that fake excitement. It's like you actually want what's best for your friend. So don't make it about you. We say this all the time. It's not about you. Cheer on your friends. Be the friend who makes your friends feel great when something great is happening in their life. Don't be that friend who's just always like, nah, 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 and you're just talking about the other person because you feel bad about yourself because you didn't get what you thought you deserved. All right, fifth thing, serve sacrificially. Serve sacrificially. In Mark chapter 10, Jesus is talking about power in this world. And he's saying, like out there in the world, they're all about using their authority for themselves to kind of take advantage of other people. And he says, it shouldn't be that way among Jesus followers. But whoever would be great among you must be a servant. And whoever would be first must be a slave of all. And then he says, for even the Son of Man, he's talking about himself, Jesus, for even Jesus came not to be served, even though he's God, he came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Do you want to know the thing that's going to make you shine the light of Jesus, maybe like nothing else in middle school with your friends? It's being a teenager, being a middle schooler that serves their friends. Now, here's what I know about students. It's really easy for you to go on a mission trip and spend other people's money or your parents' money and raise all this money to go to another country or to go to another city or to go on this special mission trip and to serve people you don't even know. And I'm not saying that's bad. Like in a couple months, we're going to talk about mission trips, and I'm going to tell you, you all need to go on one of the mission trips, one of the middle school mission trips. But here's the problem. We often serve people we don't know, and we're not willing to serve the people in our own lives. And we're not willing to serve the people around us because we're like, well, but that's just my friend. That's just my brother. That's just my sister. It's no big deal. They won't mind, all right? We need to be willing to serve sacrificially, especially to our friends. And I'm not talking about like some big crazy thing. I'm just talking about putting your friends before yourself. There's one slice of pizza left. Being a servant just says, hey, why don't you take it? And you're like, well, that's so silly. That's so, that's not spiritual. Yes, it's very spiritual. Because in your heart, you're saying, you know what? I'll let other people go before me. And when someone wants their way, you say, you know what? Let's do it your way. And I'm not saying you get bullied and pushed around. I'm just saying we should be willing to serve our friends. And I've hung around a lot of high schoolers and middle schoolers for a lot of years. And that's one of the last things that teenagers do It's often like, well, I want to do this. Well, I want to do this. Well, let's get in a fight about it and just like walk our separate ways and all that. Like we want to serve each other. And it's so easy. It's so easy to try to get our way and do what we want to do. It's also really easy to serve when we're at church, when we're in production, when we're on the worship team or the welcome team. But in our real life, like at school tomorrow, you're not serving your friends. You're not putting your friends first. And the last one is this: forgive quickly. Forgive quickly. Forgive quickly. Colossians 3:13 says this: you should bear with one another, which means you put up with one another. And if someone has a complaint against another, you should forgive one another. As the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. Here's something that happens a lot. I know you probably wouldn't be like I really need to forgive a friend. Probably it's not that serious. But here's what we do. We hold grudges, and sometimes we don't even know it. And we have this bitterness in our heart, and sometimes we don't even know it. But here's how we know when it comes out. When something bad happens to that person, you're kind of happy. You're kind of glad. Why? Because there's something in your heart that is bitter about something. Maybe they said something to you a couple years ago, and it still sticks in your mind. Maybe their friend did something to your friend, and you're like, well, I don't like them anymore. Whatever it is. It might be small things. But what we'll do is we'll hold on to that, and we'll carry it around like a backpack. And it just burdens us and weighs us down. And a good friend, a loving friend, a godly friend, a sacrificial friend forgives quickly. They let it go because they understand something. Jesus forgave me for everything. So I'm not gonna worry a ton about the thing they said to me 3 months ago or the thing they did to me last semester. I'm going to let it go. 1 Corinthians 13 says, love keeps no record of wrongs. And a lot of times we keep a record of wrongs, especially with our friends. Well, I'm not gonna do this because she did this, and blah, blah, and we're just coming up with all these reasons about why we're angry. And I'm not telling you that if somebody's mean to you over and over, you gotta keep being friends with them. I'm not saying that. However, you do need to, as a Jesus follower, forgive them. And it's actually more for you than them. It actually releases the bitterness and the hurt in our heart when we will forgive other people. And so we talk all the time about one mores, all the time. Inviting your one more, reaching out to your one more, helping your one more meet Jesus. And here's what I want to say. If you want to reach your one more, it's not just about invitations. That's part of it. Like we're about to do Halloween Bash in a few weeks, and that's our biggest one more event of the year, and we want you to invite all your friends. Awesome. However, if all you do is invite your friend and then you're a jerk to them all the time, you think they really want to come to church with you? You think they really want to get to know Jesus? You think they're really going to be convinced by the way you live and the way you treat people? Of course not. If you want to reach one more, you need to do some of this stuff. You need to be a godly and sacrificing friend. Someone who forgives and serves and encourages and lifts them up, and they're there in the highs and the lows. And so if you're a Jesus follower in this room, here's what I want you to do. I just want you to think about which of these 6 things you need to focus on and you need to pray to God to help you do. And then I want you this week to just work on it and really focus on trying to be a more loving friend in just that one way. And here's how I want to close. Here's the reality. We want to become better friends, more godly friends, all that, or else we wouldn't even talk about it. However, you're never going to be a perfect friend because you're not perfect. And you're never going to find a perfect friend. And there is no person that's going to complete you. Prince Charming's not going to make everything better one day. Nobody on earth can complete your life and fulfill all your hopes and dreams. They will all fall short because they are humans. There is only one relationship. There is only one friend that completes us, and that is a friendship. That is a relationship with Jesus. When we look at Proverbs 18:24, Jesus is essentially the fulfillment of that proverb. He is the friend that sticks closer than a brother. The Bible says, even when your mother and your father forsake you, even when everybody leaves you behind, Jesus won't leave you behind. And in John 15:13, when Jesus talks about a friend that lays down his life for his friends, he's talking about himself. He is the friend who lays down his life for every single one of you. And you may think, well, I'm not really worth that much. Well, Jesus says you are. And he showed it by dying for you, by dying for you. And so as we close this series, we've been talking about the earthly relationships. I just want to focus on that heavenly relationship for a minute. And here's the invitation. We want you, if you're in this room and you've never surrendered your life to Jesus, you've never entered into a relationship with him. Maybe you've prayed, maybe you've been to church a few times. Obviously, you're at church right now, but you've never surrendered your life to Jesus, entered into a relationship with Jesus. I want to invite you to do that tonight. Invite you to say yes to him. And it's as simple as admitting that you're messed up and you need a Savior, believing that Jesus is the Son of God, that he died for you and rose again, and confessing with your mouth that he is Lord. And so I want you to bow your heads, close your eyes. If that's you, if you've never surrendered your life to Jesus, I want to invite you to pray this prayer with me. You could say it out loud or you could say it in the quiet of your heart. But what matters is that you are confessing him as Lord, that you are surrendering to him, that you're saying, I want to be in a relationship with Jesus because he is the only one who will complete me and make me who I need to be for life on earth and into eternity. The only one who can fix my sin problem, the only one who can change my ways and change my heart. So if that's you, I want you to pray this prayer with me. Jesus, I'm yours. I know that I'm a sinner, that I've messed up, that I can't fix myself. I believe you are the Son of God, that you died and rose again for me. I believe that when you died, it counted for me. Forgive me. I want to follow you. Be the Lord of my life. I give my life over to you. In your name, amen.